the one that's very popular right now that I would be remiss if we didn't talk about is Cleopatra. So, have you watched Cleopatra? Like, I mean, God bless you. You put yourself through it for some of these reviews that you do. Is this one that you've actually sat down and looked at?
Well, so for the video, I wasn't addressing the actual show. Like, I didn't want to talk about that because getting into a review of it would take, it would like double the length and stuff. Like, I would have to get into that. But I did sit down and watch about the first 20 minutes of it, I think, and then I just couldn't take it anymore. It was such bullshit. Because it's like it pretty much encapsulates all the tropes that we talked about earlier. Like, if you've got a female lead now. They turned Cleopatra into this like sword-swinging warrior who's also like a tremendous diplomat, an incredible inventor. She's right about everything. She's incredibly forward-thinking, incredibly articulate. She has all the men around her in the palm of her hand. And they just made her into like a 21st century girl boss. Like, she could have walked straight off a Marvel set and into this documentary, and that's what you would end up with. And I thought, well, okay, because I want you to give it a chance of like, what's your historical basis for this? Like, who are these experts that can shed light on this? And like, each one of them were basically like gender studies professors or like people who'd studied like Egyptian literature for like 6 months, and then they went into like feminism studies or whatever. And it's like, they're not scientists, and they're not like recognized archaeologists. They're just anyone that the makers could find that would agree with the thrust that they wanted to go for with this documentary. And it's just mind-boggling that now gets passed off as like a legit documentary that's been researched. That was the thing I talked about in my video, because hey, you want to make a film about her, go to town. Like, have her like on a flying around on a jetpack with like an iPad and stuff. Like, you just it's fiction. You can do whatever you want. Like, but with it's a documentary, you've got that expectation that you're going to be grounded in fact and evidence and reality, and the ultimate goal of a documentary is to get to truth. And if what you're doing is the exact opposite, it's like, no, we have a narrative we want to go for here. We're just going to find evidence, or we're going to fabricate it that's going to support what we want it to say. That's really shady stuff to get into, Well, so I think that's the backlash against it,
Yeah, I just in case the audience doesn't know, the backlash for people is that they have race swapped, or I don't even know if that's the appropriate word. They are documenting that Cleopatra was a black woman, which is not incidental to it, at least from the marketing material that I've seen. That's like a huge important piece for these filmmakers, is that Cleopatra was in fact black. And you talk in your video about some of the backlash they received, not just from the American audience, but the Egyptian audience is super upset about it as well.
Yeah, well, it would be like if they made a documentary about William Wallace or Robert the Bruce, like Scottish heroes, who are documented historically, and had them played by like a black man, for example. Yeah, there would be a backlash against it, because it's like, we know they weren't. So why are you trying to claim these people as something else? And yeah, I think the theory I had in my video, and I pretty much stick by this, is they did a previous season of this African Queens documentary series, which is a good idea. It's all about like shedding light on female black leaders throughout history, that we didn't know much about, and so they can bring them to the fore. I think probably the first season that they did, it was essentially like a leader of like a kingdom in like the 15th century in like sub-Saharan Africa that nobody's ever heard of, and so nobody watched the show. And I think what they thought was, we need a name to attach to this that will get people's attention. Who's people heard of that's a famous African woman leader? Cleopatra, perfect. Like, isn't she supposed to be like Greek? No, we'll just pretend she was black. Okay.
It sounds like there might have been like two levels of that. Like one, which is the cynical, we need this. And then also, I mean, you have quotes from, I think it's I'm not sure if it's the director or the producer. I wrote these down because I thought they were so gaslighty, which is, for some people, it seems to really matter that she's white. I've asked Egyptians to see themselves as Africans, and they're furious with me for that. I'm okay with this. It's this like
As long as I got what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like we're going to make race the most important piece about this, and then when you tell me that we've got it wrong, I'm going to act like you're crazy. Like we have things like Bridgerton, we have things like Hamilton, we have these things that are like obviously period piece race swapped where that's the thing. And the difference is they're not presented as historical fact. They're rapping in Hamilton. Bridgerton is a totally other thing. And there's a genre that can exist for that. And this could have been in that. I don't know why they felt the need, and perhaps I wonder if it performs better for them to present it as a historical account.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the question I always ask, right, is when you get something like that, when the person says, "Why is it so important to you that Cleopatra is white?" I would just say, "Well, I don't know. Why is it so important to you that she's black?" Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like turn it around on them, because it's like, well, you obviously went into this with a bias and a desire to turn this character or this historical figure into something she wasn't. Like, what was your motivation for it, and why was it so important to you? Like, couldn't you find other like laudable and interesting black women from history that you could explore? Why'd you have to try and take over this one? It's like just because she's famous, you know? And yeah, that's I don't know if this is a distinctly Hollywood perspective where people will say things like, as you mentioned, I just don't know why these Egyptians are mad at some idiot Hollywood director coming in who knows nothing about their culture and trying to change like important parts of their history and pretend like it's fact. I just can't work out why that's making them mad. You know, it's so stupid. It's like, well, again, like flip it and say like, okay, like we'll have Egyptians come in and rewrite American history for you and present it as a documentary. Like, how would you guys feel about it? You know.
Yeah. Did I understand, it might have been from your video, it might have been somewhere else, that there is some sort of a lawsuit coming from Egypt? Or did I misunderstand that? There
is, yeah. An Egyptian lawyer is suing Netflix on behalf of like the entire country of Egypt. Basically saying, you're misrepresenting our history. This is, I don't know what you'd even call it. It's not libel, but it's like, you know, knowingly spreading false information. And yeah, we want damages or something for it. I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but I just think it's funny that like you're getting sued by a country.